The Love, Life, and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. If you know what to do, but can't figure out why you're just not doing it, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach, Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to think and eat like a normal eater, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. Hey, welcome to episode 11. This episode is all about how to adjust your food expectation to get the scale moving. So, this is specifically for those of you who are having a hard time thinking that you're willing to eat less. And how you will know this is that you will think thoughts like, oh, I'm already eating so little anyway. I used to be able to eat so much more. How can I eat any less and still enjoy myself? Soon enough, I'll be eating like a bird. Or maybe you're saying, this is what a toddler would eat. This is so pitiful. So there's resistance here, right? When we start eating less, we start losing weight. And about every 10 to 20 pounds, you are of weight loss, you are carrying around a body that needs less food to run. And so this process of adjusting your food expectation is a necessary part of allowing weight loss. And there comes a part where I see it a lot. It's very common where there's a really, like, it seems like it's a hard stop. Like, I just don't see how I'm going to be able to do this. Eat less so I can continue to lose weight. Like, I'm already eating so much less. How am I going to be able to get to goal weight? It seems impossible. So, for an example to show you how this might be an error in your thinking, I want you to think about someone who is supposedly a normal eater, who has never really had a weight problem, and who is at the weight that you want to be at goal weight. Maybe is about the same height as you. If you observe them in the wild, you will see that they don't have thoughts about the amount of food that they're eating not being enough, or that they feel so like restricted because they can't eat more. They're not thinking thoughts like that. They're just focused on choosing foods that they want to eat, and they're enjoying the heck out of it and following their internal appetite cues as to when to stop. Sometimes they might overeat, but it's not as a strategy for life. It's because they lost focus or they got distracted, right? So something must be different here. And it's always comes down to how we're thinking about it. So I have a strategy for you to try to help you adjust your food expectations so you can get the scale moving. Here's how you do it. The formula is to serve yourself less than your brain thinks is adequate. Maybe not a lot less, like just slightly less than you've been used to eating. And you'll know you're doing it right if you hear the shitty thoughts come in. This is what a toddler would eat. This will never be enough. I'll never make it to dinner. I'm going to be so hungry. This won't hold me. If it's your last meal of the day, you might think, I'll wake up starving, or this is so much less than I used to eat. And if that happens, then you know that you're serving yourself the right amount, because you want to provoke those resisting thoughts to come up. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by these thoughts. Just treat them like just a bee, like buzzing in your ear. It's like slightly annoying, and it seems like it requires panic or you to do something different. But if you just like sort of sit with it and ignore it, it's not going to be dangerous for you. Okay. So, step one is to serve yourself less than you visually think is what you've been eating. Not a lot less, just a little bit less. Then you hear the resistant thoughts. Step two is to eat that smaller amount. And I want you to really focus on the pleasure and enjoyment of that smaller amount. And I want you to inquire when you think it's appropriate, like, is this enough? So you're going to ask yourself, you're going to inquire within, is this enough? This is not like emotionally enough, but physically in your stomach. Is the amount that you ate enough to take away all of your hunger and be enough? 9 times out of 10, your stomach will be like, yeah, it's enough. It's fine. I'm not full, but I'm also not hungry anymore. I'm somewhere in like the phase of like enoughness. Great. You're really onto something. This is right where you need to be. You might feel a little bit uncomfortable. You might feel a little bit restless. You might feel like strange for stopping at this point that you're with a volume of food in your physical stomach that doesn't feel familiar. But, right, anything we do that we're not used to doing is going to feel awkward and unfamiliar. Step three is to repeat this step one and step two every time you eat. And this goes without saying that when you're eating when you're physically hungry, of course. You have to start with physical hunger present. So repeat this at every meal is step three. And after about 2 weeks, your mind will adapt to accepting visually slightly less food. And then you're confirming the feedback of your physical stomach, confirming that it's enough. And then you'll adjust your expectation of what is enough food. This is what I'm describing is an adjustment process to visually re-estimate what's enough so that you can allow the scale to move. The only thing in the way of you doing this is thoughts that you need more, that are not experimented with your actions, where you actually try eating less and then you check in with your stomach like, is it enough? And your stomach 9 times out of 10 will say, yeah, it's enough. Now, you might have thoughts like, oh, but what about an hour from now? What about 2 hours from now? What about if I leave the house and I get hungry? Well, that doesn't matter. You can make a plan to deal with those things at that time, but it may or may not come to pass that it's not enough. The question is that really matters is that, is it enough right now? And then you have the courage to let it be enough if your stomach says it is. And here's the thing about this. You're not thinking it's enough. You're asking your physical body if it's enough. Your physical stomach never will lie to you. You can trust the feedback from your physical body. I mean, you can't always trust your thoughts because sometimes, our thinking has an agenda based on our limiting beliefs, right? But physical feedback from your body, you can always trust. Just consider that. Okay. So here's the summary of what we're doing. Eat less, get used to eating a little bit less and have that be enough, and then accept less as the new enough once you have practiced enough times. So we know that this process is true because, like I said before, at goal weight and maintenance, people at that weight don't report feeling hungry all the time or feeling like their food isn't enough. They have allowed this recalibration process of visually estimating what is the right amount of food to play out in their physical stomachs. So your stomach is one of these organs that will adjust over time. We see this with bariatric surgery patients. They create a smaller stomach, and sometimes, like if it's pushed to expand, like the stomach will. Or if you've ever fasted for a while, maybe religiously fasted or whatever, you'll notice that when you go to eat again, you get full really quickly, right? So your sense of enoughness is um it's changeable over times, and it will change with your inputs to the stomach. And if we want to lose weight, particularly if you have, you know, a bunch of weight to lose, you can look forward to this recalibration process as a really cool mechanism in the human body. So it's going to require a few things of you to go through this recalibration. You're going to need to have a willingness to accept eating less food as part of the process of weight loss. Like, you got to get down with that. You can't say you want to lose weight and then insist that you need more food. The two don't go together. You don't get to have both. So if you want to lose weight, you have to have a willingness to accept eating less food as part of the weight loss process. Number two, you have to be willing to sit in fear and discomfort by allowing less to be enough, even though we currently think it's not enough. You ever like have this idea about who somebody is and that you don't like them? And then maybe like circumstance puts you two together and you get to know them a little bit and you're like, oh, they're not that bad. They're actually kind of cool. That's what this is like. Like, your brain is going to tell you it's terrible and, it's unsustainable. And, it's just like life eating less is just horrible. And that's just not true. Prove it to yourself by getting in there, being willing to eat less and play it out. You got to give it at least 2 weeks, consistently serving yourself a little bit less. Okay. Number three, you have to be willing to notice negative thinking about not enough to be a cue that what you're doing is going to help you adjust to eating less. And don't use that negative thinking as a reason to go back to eating more. Think about these negative thoughts, about these resistant thoughts about eating less that always will happen when you adjust how much you eat. As like what a toddler would say about all the reasons why they don't want to tie their shoes or get in the car, use the potty. You just like, I know. You just like, I know you don't want to, but we're doing it anyway. You know, you understand their resistance, but you don't really believe their resistance. And that's what I'm getting at here. So, to summarize, don't be distracted by what to eat. Be compelled to figure out the how much part first. Okay. So many of us have learned so much programming about when we think about weight loss to be really obsessed with what we eat. That is not where the results will happen. You have to think about how much you're eating first. Be willing to eat less and see how far that gets you. And then as you get closer to goal weight, yeah, you might want to up level some of your choices with the types of foods that you eat to see if it gets you more results. But I want you to start with the question of how much first. So here's your coach homework. I want you to make a plan today for how you will incorporate and put the 3-step process into action over the next week. What will your obstacles be? Okay. I'm going to put the 3-step process on Instagram at Thrive in Midlife for this episode. You'll see them right there if you want to see them written out. What will your obstacles be? Anticipate them in your mind like a movie so vividly that you can really brainstorm easily, like what will help you in those hard moments. It's going to be, it's going to be like? It's going to be like going to the French restaurant And like the descriptions of the food sound so amazing. And then the waiter comes over and puts down the food and you're like, "Wait, where's the food?" Of course, I'm not saying to serve yourself a lot less, okay? But we've all had that experience of being like expecting more and seeing less. That's what I'm talking about. And then your mind's going to be like, "Oh, that's not enough." And then you're going to be like, "Hey, let's just try it. Let's just see what the stomach says." Like we're going to just not listen to the brain right now. That's the toddler giving out and complaining and, crying and throwing a temper tantrum even. Let's just see what the stomach says. The stomach is the authority. So I have this analogy that I came up with, which is the bouncer of your stomach. So many of us with weight to lose that have had a hard time losing weight, we ask our brain and our thoughts to tell us what's possible instead of our body. So use the analogy of the bouncer of the stomach where pretend that there's like a bouncer. And for me, like my bouncer of my stomach, like a nightclub bouncer, he's like this big dude, you know, and he's got his arms crossed. And his job is to let you know when there's room in your stomach, which means you're hungry and it's okay to eat. And then you're also going to ask him if there's enough food in the stomach and where you don't want a crowded VIP club of your stomach to be too full of food. So his job is to just keep the right amount of food in your stomach so that you can lose weight. That's his job. He works for you and he's not going to lie to you. Like if you ask your mind, "Oh, do we want more food?" Of course, your mind's going to be like, "Yes, let's eat all the food." But the bouncer doesn't fuck around. Like he's just going to be like, "Nope, we are at capacity. Everyone's having a great time in the stomach. There's room at the bar. There's room to dance." Arihachi boo, right? We're eating to 7 or 8/10 full so that we can allow for weight loss. We want the right food in, the right amount of food in, and we're going to be really happy with our experience. So use the bouncer of the stomach, inquire, ask, is it time to eat? The club should be empty. Your stomach should have no food in it, and you should have active physical hunger signals. And the bouncer will be like, "Yep, it's time to party. Let's go. Let's eat." And then as you're eating, you're going to check in with the bouncer. Are we at enough? Can we accommodate more food? The bouncer will be like, "Yeah, I'll probably maybe two more bites, 3 more bites." He'll let you know. Try it if it works for you. Name your bouncer. Some of my clients name their bouncer. It makes it fun. Okay. So make a plan how you're going to put the 3-step process into action over the next week. That's your homework. Anticipate your obstacles. Visualize your obstacles and then write the script for how you're going to put these 3 steps into practice. Each eating opportunity this week. So here's the 3 steps again. You're going to tell yourself you're willing to eat less as part of the weight loss process. Number 2, you're willing to sit in fear and discomfort by allowing less to be enough, even though you think it isn't. Number 3, notice the resistant thoughts about not enough food to be a cue that what you're doing is working, and then not use them as a reason to go back and permissively eat more. Play it out 2 weeks, be as consistent as you can. Perfection is certainly not required at all. You're going to overeat a few times. That's normal. Like for me, I tend to overeat like twice a week and I can still lose weight. Okay. So try it out. This is how you're going to adjust your food expectation to get the scale moving. Okay. Try it. Visit me on Instagram. Tell me how it's going. If you have questions, ask me over there. We'll keep the conversation going. I can't wait to see how this plays out for you. So stay focused on what you want, and so long. Hey, if this episode resonated for you,
Then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's hbeardsley.com/subscribe and get on the list. You'll get a free gift, periodic coaching, plus advance notice of in-person events and workshops.